For more on this, we're now joined by Reverend Moss Ntlha of Defend Our Democracy, and he joins us via our video link. Reverend, thank you so much for your time this evening here in SABC News. I mean, first, let's start off here as Defend Democracy. Let's talk about, what you held today and, reaffirming that position and that commitment to ensuring free and fair elections.
Thank you, Mbali. Yeah, it was a wonderful opportunity for us as Defend Our Democracy to be guests of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation in their honoring of the stalwart Ahmed Kathrada. But it was an occasion that also focused as a theme on the upcoming elections, because as you know, these will be very contested. And it was the intention, indeed, not only of all of us as Defend Our Democracy, but also the other political parties made commitments to ensure that free and fair elections do happen, and that those elections are credible and have integrity. And so, as Defend Our Democracy, we're doing our part, along with civil society organizations, to invite South Africans from across the country to participate in some other way as volunteers who will monitor through Defend Our Democracy, to monitor the elections and make sure we defend this democracy and its elections and make sure they are free and fair.
And holding this event or this commemoration at the same time, during a time where in our country we've seen some comments coming out from youth leaders, like from the MK Youth Party, where they were threatening to disrupt elections. What is your take on that, especially looking at how far we have come as a country 30 years on from this democracy?
I think as Defend Our Democracy, we really take a very dim view of political parties that without any evidence, without any warrant to make the claim that they make, that the IEC is already guilty of misbehavior in terms of these elections. And as they make the claim that unless they get 2/3 of majority in this elections, then hell will break loose. We don't take those threats lightly. We think the security cluster in our country ought to respond with appropriate measures to make sure that kind of threat is neutralized. I think that we've seen in the past, in 2021, how it is possible that threats that start as threats that could be dismissed eventually become a reality, and a lot of lives are lost. And so we think that is a lesson we should carry into these elections. And any party that makes the sort of claims we've heard from MK leaders ought to be taken very seriously.
And what do statements like that mean now? I mean, just today we saw that announcement coming out from the IEC objecting to former President Jacob Zuma being on the list to go to Parliament for the MK party. And if we've heard these kind of statements, what does threats like this mean for our democracy, especially now when we've seen the statement coming out from the IEC saying, unfortunately, former President Jacob Zuma can't be on the ballot paper?
Correct. I think the IEC is quite correct. I think that from the beginning, since 1994, the IEC has served this country very well. They have delivered credible elections all of the times that we've had elections in the country. And so there is no reason to doubt their integrity and their credibility. And so those threats that have come from the MK party vilifying the IEC in advance, as indeed we saw in the past, that the way these things start, the way turmoil starts in the country, is you start by attacking the judiciary, you start by attacking the public institutions that are supposed to serve our democracy and to bolster it and strengthen it. You hollow those ones out, you strip them of credibility and make way for free for all in the country. And so we think that is a very, very serious matter that ought to be met with the seriousness that it deserves. And we call upon the authorities to act accordingly. I think these are not light threats, they are serious.
And Reverend, of course, another important thing that took place today, you as Defend Our Democracy, reflecting on the life and the contributions that were made by a former struggle stalwart, Ahmed Kathrada. As Defend Our Democracy, how do you choose to remember his contributions to this country?
Thank you for that question, Bali. Well, Ahmed Kathrada is one of those heroes that have given us a legacy as a country of non-racialism, of a commitment to constitutional democracy, and a desire indeed to serve this country. And as Defend Our Democracy, we want to use that legacy, the values that has been bequeathed to future generations, of a very strong commitment to constitutional democracy, a very strong commitment to serving this country, so that politicians don't take the view that as soon as they are elected, they become the masters and the rest of us ought to serve them. That Ahmed Kathrada taught and lived the values of service, and that those who are elected ought to always remember that they are actually employed by the people who voted for them. And so we believe that as we go into these elections, part of what that means is to do everything we can to make sure that these elections are free and fair, that civil society, along with other observers, hopefully, that from international community, but also other institutions in the country. But certainly the Defend Our Democracy has worked with others to set up a mechanism called Election Watch, which can be found on our website. All of that is an effort to say we can all participate in ensuring the integrity of these elections by observing elections, by being there to see for ourselves, and indeed to be able to offer an independent comment on whether or not these elections were free and fair. And I think that's a way in which we'd like to honor Ahmed Kathrada to serve and protect the institutions of our democracy.
And what lessons can South Africans learn from Ahmed Kathrada's legacy, especially now that many South Africans have expressed, how they are not sure which political parties they will be voting for? And when we look back on 30 years of democracy, what lessons can South Africans learn from his legacy?
Well, quite correct. I think the South Africans have every reason to be pessimistic, every reason to have no public confidence on political parties. For the last 30 years, they've been humiliated by politicians who have reduced them to poverty in all sorts of ways. And so the South African today is very cynical about whichever political party comes up. And so we are in that crisis point. And Ahmed Kathrada and the generation of stalwarts who imagined in the dark days of apartheid, from within the belly of the beast, if you like, imagined a future of a non-racial democracy where all people can live with dignity, in a context where that was unimaginable. People like Ahmed Kathrada imagined that possibility and set about working tirelessly with all sacrifice to make sure it comes about. And we can do the same. I think we can look at our 30 years experiment with democracy and imagine a future where all of our present crises can be history. And that can only happen, obviously, not only because politicians say so, or whatever it is they do, but as South Africans, we have to make sure we defend the democracy and make sure it works. That was the legacy they left us. They functioned for the most part outside of parliament, outside of parliamentary politics, outside of the authorities, but to make sure transformation happens. And so in a bottom-up sort of way, they built this country into a non-racial society. And so in the same way, We can look at the crisis we have and decide to watch our country go down, or we can go to work with the sort of energy, passion that Ahmed Kathrada and others demonstrated, and build this country from the ground up. Everyone shoulders to the wheel, and we can arrive at a better country than we have now.
Reverend, thank you so much for your time this evening. That is Reverend Moss Ntlha from Defend Our Democracy, talking there about the legacy of former struggle stalwart Ahmed Kathrada, and also touching on other issues in relation to elections in the country.